Hi YouTube, my name is Colleen. I'm 22 years old and I'm going to discuss something that's plagued me my whole life called selective mutism. I've seen a lot of YouTube videos now which focus on this disorder, and I figure I'd jump on the bandwagon too to further educate those about what this disorder is about and how it's affected my life and how it's affected those around me. Selective mutism, which is sometimes called SM for short, is classified as a psychiatric disorder in which a person who is completely capable of speaking is unable to speak in certain situations or sometimes to specific people. It's also considered a social anxiety disorder, and people who are affected by SM are often perceived as shy people and also very rude. As you can see by all the gaps in the video, it's very difficult for me to talk about a problem that affects my life and to admit that I actually have a problem psychiatrically. Very difficult to talk about it, ironically enough. I can say on my end that people pretty much just perceive me as a shy individual who is just really not interested in speaking to them. And unfortunately, it can be seen as me being rude to other people, and I just simply don't care to talk to them. which I can't say is true, but that's what it's often perceived as. For me, I was diagnosed, I believe, in preschool, if not kindergarten, pretty young. It was first noticed when I wasn't speaking in class when called upon. I would just sit silent. And it's not that I misunderstood the question or misunderstood why they were trying to talk to me. It's just, there was something in my head that just pretty much prevented me from being able to speak. I knew what I wanted to say, but I couldn't get the words off my tongue. It just wouldn't come out. It was very difficult to make friends because when you're growing up, it's pretty expected of you to talk, to communicate with others. And when you have kids who don't understand what's going on, it's like, oh, she's just shy. She's not interested in hanging out with me and becoming friends with me anyway, so why should I bother becoming friends with her? I would only speak around my parents, not even close friends, just my parents, my siblings. I think that's about it. Not even other relatives like my grandparents or my aunts and uncles, cousins. That completely silent to them. I was a pretty loud mouth at home, and for those who know me personally, that seems kind of hard to believe. Me actually yelling and screaming at my brother and sister just doesn't fit my personality for a lot of people. And maybe for those who do know me personally, it may be a surprise I have this, it may not be. Maybe those who do know me just consider me shy. And maybe some who are clever enough figured out I had some sort of extra thing going on with me. Been made fun by a lot of kids growing up, and you know, it's very difficult to understand what the disorder's about if you can't experience it yourself. I mean, I've been made fun by teachers before for not saying the Pledge of Allegiance in class. I couldn't do it. Even though I knew the words exactly as they were, I knew how to recite it, I knew how to pronounce the words. There was something in my mind that prevented me from actually verbally communicating. I started getting treatment when I was about 7 years old. My mom would take me up to UCLA Medical Center once a week, which is about an hour drive from where I used to live, and go see a specialist to treat my disorder. To say I'm a very stubborn person, and at first it was very difficult for me to get to talk to my doctor. I mean, for a while I thought I was going to be like Wile E. Coyote holding up signs to say what I wanted to say because I just couldn't get the words out of my mouth. I mean, after, I forget how many visits it took for me to finally speak. I was just so stubborn. And to overcome that hurdle, to speak for the first time, in front of someone else was a pretty big accomplishment for me. I was eventually prescribed medication to help calm my anxiety. Although I gotta say, I didn't notice an effect immediately. It was more of a long-term transition. By the time I was 8 or 9 years old, I was able to finally speak in front of other kids at school. That took forever. Just a few simple words. And from there, it eventually progressed to me actually being able to read aloud in class, which is pretty phenomenal. But even though when I stopped going to the doctor, when I stopped taking the medication, I still felt kind of an ongoing sensation of selective mutism. It didn't quite stop, although I started to understand ways to overcome it publicly. But of course I hit these bumps in the road where it's very awkward to still speak in front of other people. It's kind of odd because I never really had a difficult time with my public speaking courses. I'm able to talk. I'm able to talk in front of a class. I'm able to make a speech, give a presentation. But when it's more of in a social setting, for me, I found it can be extremely awkward. So those who know me have probably, I'm sure, witnessed where I really just don't know what to say. I mean, of course, it's more difficult with people I don't know very well. With my close friends, it's easier for me to talk to them. It's easier for me to give my opinion, to talk about whatever. Whatever we talk about these days. But for others, it's definitely a challenge. Even now at 22 years old, it hasn't quite gone away. But I have noticed, that it has become easier for me to talk in front of others, and especially in social settings. I gotta say, the one question that has driven me nuts for years is, why don't you talk? It's just so ridiculous to me. Same question over and over again after I changed social settings from, elementary school to high school, and eventually moving away out of the house to college, and then after college getting a job 2,500 miles away from home across, the continental United States. I still get that question once in a while. And it drives me completely nuts. Why are you shy? Why are you quiet? Why don't you talk? And it doesn't seem to ever leave me. Because even though it drives me completely nuts, it also serves me as a reminder I haven't completely exited this disorder yet. I don't know if I really ever will be able to. And I gotta say, it doesn't help when I hear those questions. It kind of brings back the anxiety a little bit. It makes things more difficult. This is more of a coming out video for me because the only people who know I'm affected by this condition are my family members, my boyfriend, and maybe a few people back in elementary school, maybe high school. For my close friends, I can say that most of you probably don't know this has been affecting me. I chose to withhold this information from people because I didn't want to be treated differently in a social light. I didn't want to be treated with someone who has a disability. I just want to be treated like a normal person. I didn't want that classification over my head, like, oh, yeah, she's selectively mute. That's the reason why she's like that. I didn't want that. It's not something I wanted to be labeled as. It doesn't feel right for me to keep this information from my close friends, and also especially from parents of kids and those kids who have selective mutism. For parents of those who are selectively mute, my recommendation is, if you haven't done so already, to seek treatment for your child, because even though it's a long trek ahead and it's not an instant, like boom, they're better, it's going to take years. It's been shown in studies that for those who seek treatment when they're older, or who don't seek treatment at all, the disorder can actually progress into something worse and can be more difficult to treat. It can be more difficult for your child to adapt to social situations, and it could be a longer transition when they're older versus when they're younger. It's taken me years to get to this point, and the trek isn't done yet. It's those who are struggling with selective mutism, you know, keep on trekking, keep on working at it. It's a long road, it's a long journey, and it's ultimately up to you to overcome the disorder, or to at least alleviate it to where it's easier for you to adapt in social situations. Don't give up on yourself. It's frustrating. It can be challenging, and don't let other people get to you. Don't let them put you down. If you feel that seeking help will assist you, don't be afraid to ask for it. It's going to be extremely awkward at first. It is going to be very difficult and very challenging, but I can tell you the rewards outweigh that completely. Don't let this disorder keep you from accomplishing the goals that you want to accomplish in your life and from being the person you want to be. The best thing for those to do, for those who interact with selective mutistic folks, is to be patient around them, especially friends of selectively mute individuals. Patience is the best thing. Don't poke fun at it. Just accept it's the way they are, and if anything, help them get through this, because it's not an easy thing to get around. It's funny, this is, for some people, it's probably the most they've ever seen me talk before. This single YouTube video. For those who have any other questions or comments, feel free to post them in the comments section of this page. And although I'm not a very active YouTube person, I'll eventually get back to you. I'll go ahead and post some links in the description section of this YouTube video, so if you want to further read up on what this disorder is about, you can go ahead and do so.